You are listening to Weight Loss Made Real, and this is episode 216. I'm your host, Master Weight Loss Coach and author, Cookie Rosenblum. Today and every Tuesday, I'm here to be your coach and your guide to help you end your emotional eating and lose that extra weight. If you just found me, welcome. And if you're a regular listener, welcome back. Here is where we work together to end your emotional eating and habitual overeating, and this is the main focus of all the work I do. This is weight loss for the thinking woman who's smart enough to know what doesn't work and is willing to dig a little deeper to make true lasting change. Here is where coaching meets psychology and psychology meets brain science. And this is where your problem ends. If you like what you're learning from me, there are 3 ways to connect. These podcasts are one. The podcasts are created by me for you to share some new helpful ideas to think about and help you understand why you do what you do. The second way is the free Facebook group, which you've heard me mention, and it's called Weight Loss Made Real, just like this podcast. And it's a group you can join where we talk about the podcast. And finally, the Freedom Group. That is where real change takes place, with me as your coach. It's a monthly membership for smart thinking women like you who want to stop overeating from stress and habit and are ready to make space for more happiness in their life. You can learn more about the Freedom Group at weightlossmadereal.com/group or check out the show notes for a link. All right, let's get started with your coaching session today. Here's what I'm going to share with you today. We're going to talk about this question. Does your kitchen trigger you to eat? Why is it that every time you walk into your kitchen, you want to eat? Why do you walk into your kitchen when it isn't mealtime? And why do you feel compelled to go there as if the kitchen and the food in it is calling your name? We get triggered by things that we see and hear and even just think about, and that includes what you see and smell and think about in your kitchen or other parts of your house or desk if you keep food in other parts of the house. So let's break this down and see how you are doing with your kitchen and if it might need a little tweak or two. So what's a trigger? A trigger is something that initiates a chain of events or a series of actions. A cue happens first. A cue can be a sign or a signal that reminds you of something else, and then you react to it. Triggers and cues, they're not good, they're not bad, but if they're leading you to make unconscious choices or take actions that don't really serve you, what I want to help you do right now is become aware of your triggers. Because if you're not aware of them, it's going to feel like you suddenly want to do something and the drive to do it is really strong, but you have no idea why. You were triggered. So what does it feel like to be triggered? You probably know. You probably could think of an example. It usually feels sudden, like the idea to do that or eat that just popped into your mind. And it feels like you have no choice but to do that thing. So if we're talking about you in your kitchen, yes, we're going to be talking mostly about eating. And specifically, we're talking about being triggered to eat when you're not hungry by what you see in your kitchen. It feels like you don't even have to give it a thought. It just feels so automatic that when this happens, I do that. When I see food on TV, I get up and go to the kitchen to grab a snack. Or when my kids, not me, but maybe you relate to one of these, when your kids leave food on their plates, as you're rinsing the dishes, you might finish their food without even being aware of what you're doing. Or if someone is eating around you, you might just automatically eat some too. These are all examples of you being triggered and then wanting to eat. So the first thing I want to ask you is, what are some common triggers for you? When is it? When does it happen? And where are you when you suddenly find yourself wanting to eat. Now, we all experience all kinds of triggers to do or think or feel certain things, to act a certain way. But if you're triggered and you're following the trigger and it's something you don't want to do, there's going to be a result, particularly when it's around eating and your weight, right? What's the result of following a trigger to eat when you're not hungry? You're going to feel more and think that you are out of control. You're going to feel disempowered and helpless. It feels like you're suddenly just thrown off track from whatever your plan was. And when this happens, if you think you're not in charge, this creates doubt in yourself, like your plan is just meaningless or your ability to follow your plan kind of non-existent. This makes you think, well, there's no point in trying, no point in having goals, no point in planning, because it feels like you're at the mercy of whatever triggers are around you. What happens is that you have a plan to eat when you're hungry, not because you're triggered. You've made a commitment to lose weight, if that's something you want to do, and tune into your physical hunger as a guideline for eating, right? Those are your goals. But you can't do those things successfully if you're responding to triggers without thinking and then feeling bad about it and beating yourself up for overeating, and you might still not be aware of and acknowledging the trigger. You might not be aware that you were triggered. It just feels to you like, I had to do it. So why is it so important to acknowledge and become aware of your food triggers? So that you could choose differently, so that you could plan for them and act differently, so that you could minimize them, so that you could expect them and be prepared for them. One of the triggers that many of you don't think about is having food out in your kitchen. And that's what I want to focus on with you today. So the question is, do you have food out all over your kitchen or even in different places in your house? Are you guilty of this? Now, I'm not trying to get you to feel guilty, right? Because we know the feeling of guilt can come only from your guilty thoughts. What I mean is this what you do? Remember, we're taking your habits apart, and part of that process is to see what actually starts your habit. If you do have food out all over your kitchen, like on your countertops, or maybe you have an open pantry with no doors, I want you to ask yourself why. Is it that you're just not caring about it and it's not important to you? Is it that you're choosing to not get organized because maybe you think, oh, that'll take too long, or it'll be so hard, or you just don't know where to begin, or even what to do to change your kitchen and how you have it organized? Maybe you think it won't make a difference. Who cares if food is out? Maybe you even think that having the food out makes your life easier, right? You can just grab it. Or maybe you're afraid that me suggesting that you don't have the food out, you're thinking a thought that's going to make you feel deprived. Well, I shouldn't have to put my food away. That's not fair. Or maybe you have other family members or people that you live with who want it out or leave it out. Maybe you keep putting it away and the people you live with leave it out. Maybe you think it's easier because once it's out, I don't have to get food for others. And maybe we're thinking about children. Or maybe you're just rebelling against being told what to do, even if it might help you. Now, I want you to ask yourself, what are the reasons that you, if you are leaving food out in your kitchen at any time? Remember that any time we want to change something we need, we want to first look at what we're doing right now. When I bring this up, I want to know what you find yourself thinking. Are you thinking, well, I can't put the food away in my kitchen because it's not fair to my family, it's not fair to me, it's more work for me, nobody will help me, why should I make the effort? I don't want to, I shouldn't have to, that rebellious child in you. Or you might think, okay, this just seems excessive. I should be able to resist the food that's out. So what other thoughts do you have that are making you resist the idea of putting your food away? Now, all of these thoughts are your lower brain making a big deal out of something that will actually help you if you choose to do it. Your lower brain doesn't like change, remember? And it doesn't like conflict, like, what if my family gets mad at me? So your lower brain's going to tell you, this is too hard or it's too silly to bother with. But ask yourself, how is that working for you? Listening to your lower brain, is it working? Is having food out working? And are you able to resist it? Are you eating when you pass by the kitchen even when you're not hungry? That's the signal that that's not working. For most of the people I work with, I know it's not working very well. Okay, so what can you do instead? How can you make a choice from your higher brain that will help you reach your goals related to leaving all that food out in your kitchen? A lot of the work I do with you and Freedom Group members involves looking at your thinking, because your thoughts create your emotions, which lead you to do what you do or don't do. But sometimes it is smart and more than okay to change something before you worry about your thinking. And here we're talking about changing something in your physical environment, in your kitchen, before you work on your thinking. So we're talking about changing the triggers in your kitchen to make it easier for you. You are not cheating if you make your life easier. It's okay. I want you to consider making the choice to put the food away in your kitchen when you're not in the process of making it or eating. I'm suggesting that you take all the food from other rooms and put it away in your kitchen. Not just in your kitchen, but away in drawers or cabinets or in the fridge or wherever you keep your food. This is different than the old Weight Watchers idea of hiding your food somewhere so that you're not triggered by it. We're not talking about being afraid of your food. We're talking about making life easier. So why is it important? Because it's a food trigger that you can minimize and actually eliminate. So how do you know having food out triggers you? If you eat when you have thoughts like these, it's when you enter your kitchen and you see food and you start thinking, ooh, that looks good. Ooh, I want some of that. Ugh, I can never resist that. Or that is too good to pass up. Or, ooh, I like that. Someone gave me that. I can't turn it down. She made it just for me. But I don't want you to be afraid of the kitchen. I don't want you to be thinking thoughts like, the kitchen is a dangerous place. I have no control in the kitchen. I see food. I'm on the seafood diet. If I see it, I eat it. It's going to go bad soon, so I may as well just finish it up. What are your thoughts when you enter your kitchen and you see food? Your goal is just to make it easier for yourself to decide when to eat and what to eat based on signals from your body, not from triggers that you just happen to see because your food is out. Another danger of leaving food out is it makes that whole habit of seeing food and eating food, it makes it too easy. You're not even aware of your thoughts like the ones we just mentioned. And instead, what happens is you're on autopilot. You're doing a habit without even thinking about it. There's always a thought, but it's going to be quick and very fleeting. But you're doing the habit with that super quick thought, and having the food there makes it too easy to do the habit. Think about all the times you go into the kitchen because your brain knows that's where the food is. The entertainment, the pleasure, or the distraction from something you do not feel like doing. So if you don't feel like working, you might just suddenly get the idea that you need a distraction, and you go in the kitchen and walk through and look around and grab something. Or maybe you're tired, and you get the thought that you should go into the kitchen and get something to perk you up. that's already out on the counter. So easy. Or maybe you're bored. Your habit might be to see what there is to eat that the kids didn't put away, or you're procrastinating and it is easier to eat than doing what you need to do. Food out makes it even easier. Just the act of walking through the kitchen on your way to another room can lead to eating food that's out because it's a habit to pick up something from the counter to munch on while you're deciding what to do. Now, if there were no food out on display, might you still have some of these thoughts? Sure. But not having the food out is like one more layer of protection between you and your thoughts. If the food is not out, you're a step further away from doing the habit because you'd have to think about getting the food instead of it being right there for you. So what if the kitchen were not such a distraction with all that food out? What if your food were always put away? It would be easier to walk through it without absent-mindedly grabbing something. Nothing would be super easy to reach. It would be easier to recognize what you're going through when you're tired. It would be easier to recognize that habit of being tired and going into the kitchen. If the food isn't there, then it's not going to become the number one answer to whatever was happening before, your thoughts or your habits. The food isn't there to easily distract you. And think about this, having a clean, organized kitchen with all the food put away is a form of self-care. Think of it as nurturing for yourself and your family. It's like telling yourself, I deserve to have my kitchen and my food organized and put away and ready for when I need it. So how can you create a peaceful and pleasant kitchen in your house? Working with what you have, whatever you have, wherever you are, think about where you'll start. Here are some goals that you might consider, and I want you to compare them to where you are now, no judgment, and think about one, maybe the easiest one to start with. So one goal could be, all right, nothing on the counter. So create a routine that includes putting everything away after cooking and after eating. Another goal could be having a nicely organized fridge, no old stuff in there taking up space, so that meal prep is a breeze because you could find what you need fast and you could easily see what needs to be replaced when you go shopping. Another goal could be an organized pantry, just like your fridge, which would help you stay well stocked on supplies and more readily able to use up things that have been pushed to the back because you could see everything. So what else will help you create a peaceful and pleasant kitchen in your home that is not a constant source of triggers? I want you to choose one thing to start with and make a routine out of it. And block out time in your calendar to do this. Maybe just 15-minute increments. Set a little timer. And definitely you don't want to be doing this when you're hungry, right? When you're hungry, I want you to eat. When you're not hungry, let's set your environment up to make the eating easier. I want you to try one thing and enjoy how your kitchen looks when you start keeping that up. And notice how your view of the kitchen changes from a dangerous place where you feel out of control to a welcoming, useful place that just doesn't trigger you to eat. You are always in charge of your thoughts and your actions. You always have a choice, yes. But your choices to eat or not eat will be easier if you make some of those choices ahead of time. Like this choice to minimize and eliminate food triggers in the kitchen. Because when you do this, your higher brain is in charge of your food choices instead of your lower brain, which is always being tempted and doesn't really care if you're physically hungry or not. It's always seeking pleasure. That's the goal of minimizing food triggers by putting away the food in your kitchen after meals. You have a choice to make things easier for yourself, and it will really feel good to enjoy your clean, clear, organized kitchen. So this week, think about your own kitchen. Is food out all the time, or just when you're cooking or eating, or meal prepping? And if your kitchen is in good shape, give yourself a pat on the back. And if it's not, where would you like to start? Think about the things that we suggested. Pick one thing to work on. What's your goal for that one thing? How will you know when you've done it? When will you do it? Will you need to ask for help? How can you make it easier? No, not by having a snack while you do it, but put on some music or put on a podcast in the background. And what could a reward be? A non-food reward, of course. All right, enjoy the planning and enjoy the results. That is it for this subject in our coaching session today. You know what you're going to think about and stay focused on this week. I'm glad that you're here with me. I'm glad that you're giving yourself this little gift of time during your day or evening. So if you'd like to connect on a deeper level and you're not yet in the Freedom Group, come join me in my free Facebook group where we will talk about this podcast each week. And my team and I will help you take the action step that we talk about right here. The link to the group is in the show notes of the episode, or just go to Facebook and search for the Weight Loss Made Real group. We'll ask you a few short questions and then we will welcome you into the group. I hope to see you back here next week where we will continue to work on your emotional eating and that habitual overeating step by step until they both become something you used to do. We both know that is your ultimate goal. So for now, this is your Coach Cookie reminding you that as you search for answers, keep it real, just like you. And I'll see you next week.